is Paul Dye. I am an application engineer here at PTC, and yeah, I work with everything Creo. And so, especially everything that Heaven's gone over so far, there's a lot to be excited about in terms of things coming up, things that are being offered by PTC, and actually with Creo, there's actually the most recent release with Creo 7.0 happening this week. So definitely an interesting time to look into some of the different things that it can do, some of the things that we're really adding in, and some of the things that we already have available to us just in the base of Creo Parametric. And so that's really what we're going to go over today, is one of those facets in with the freestyle. And so to get into that and to kind of talk about it and lay the foundation for it, I kind of first want to go over some of the different challenges that we typically see with people working around these designs and when they start to be a little bit less parametrically built out. And so again, more and more these days, we're really getting designs that are fairly complex, right? They're not very easily created with just your base functionality like extrude, sweeps, etc. It usually takes a long time using the tools that you're familiar with to really get those parts of those models created through the use of things like parametric surfacing. So traditionally, we'll utilize a surface modeling in our CAD tool to kind of work our way towards these more complex shapes. And depending on how complex you get or how non-standard, it might require a pretty high level of skill to actually create that geometry that you need. And a lot of times with this, it really turns into two separate design worlds that you're working in, where it's one for the artist that's making and coming up with these different concept designs, and another for the industrial designer. And there's a lot of time and even a lot of data that gets wasted trying to communicate back and forth between those two worlds, especially if you have changes. Like Ahmed mentioned, if you're working from one software, exporting it out and working with it in another, there's data translation and a lot of errors that come from that. And the problem is, we need to be able to make changes often, right? We need to be able to work with design, work with different people on our team, and as we get these new requests in or just different things that we want to build out from that conceptual design, say with just a car part here, try this fender, try that fender, be able to create and evaluate these different designs quickly, and not only quickly, but often throughout the process. If you don't have the tools to get you there, that's going to be a problem. So what we did really is take a look at a lot of those different challenges and built our solution here in Creo to combat those, and that is with the freestyle tool. And like I had mentioned, again, this isn't some separate module or anything that you have to go through and flip between to kind of work with these different tools, something that is right in the same UI, it's right in the same interface, gives the ability to create things like freeform shapes and surfaces right within Creo. So as the base for this is really commonly referred to as subdivisional modeling, where we kind of put these nodes along the edges and the face of the model. What allows the user to do is take those nodes, pull and push on that quote unquote kind of mesh around it, and it's all one feature, really all one freestyle part. So it starts off is by selecting a primitive shape that you want to begin from, like a square, sphere, cylinder, and from there you're just going to start moving the model around, pushing, pulling on each face and moving on the edges until it kind of looks how you want it to. So now with that, you're really more focused on, what is the shape of this, rather than sitting and defining and really going through and dimensioning every little piece of that. If you still want to do that, parametric modeling is just fine. But as you start to get a little bit more freeform into it and want to make changes throughout that, this is going to be a really strong way to do that. And that process is really ideal for both the industrial designers and even in with more of your surfacing novices, because maybe you're great, working with CAD, you're a really good CAD designer, but not necessarily the surfacing expert. So normally you might stay away from a lot of those. Well, now you don't have to be, but we still get a lot of those great capabilities along with that. And even on top of that, we're still getting production quality surfaces, and what we refer to as curvature continuous. That essentially means that Creo, it's not going to build out junk that you're going to be using. And that's the way Creo has always been. It's not going to let you build something out that can't be manufactured or it's just impossible to create that 3D geometry. With this, you're really creating standalone manufacturable parts. They don't need to be sent off to someone else to get fixed up and actually created, something that we can work with and really get some great designs out of. So that's just a general overview into the tool itself. And what I can do now is just go through a quick example to kind of show a little bit more into how we see working with this tool. And so what we're going to be starting off here is with an assembly that we're kind of working around. And that's really one of the ideas here is whenever you're working with something like a freestyle feature, you can do that kind of right in context with a lot of the parametric work that you've done. Maybe you need something like a nice freeform shape to build between these different parametric elements. Well, that's really one of the big things that we use here with the freestyle tool. So this might be, say, a swing arm for a motorcycle that we're working on. Might be some type of iteration around it. We're kind of working with the base for that design. And so if we're working more around that concept design, we'll probably be starting in with something like a picture or a drawing that maybe one of our other designers sent us over. So maybe somebody else built out a little bit more of what they want this swing arm to look like. So I can use that as a reference and kind of start to use it as something to build off of. So what I'm doing here is taking that 2D image and bringing it right into my 3D environment. So this is what we call a tray sketch that we're going to build around. So I can place that in, move it over top of that hub, and wherever I want that part to be located. From there, maybe scale it, rotate the sketch, just kind of make sure that the part's going to be correctly sized whenever I go to start building this thing out. And so whenever I have that laid out where I want, we can start to really dive into the freestyle tool. And so the first thing, again, what we'll do is pick kind of the primitive shape that we want to begin with, right? So we can start with cylinders, discs, squares, whatever it happens to be, whatever is going to be the best for whatever your use case is. And so with this, maybe I'll start with just a block. And so with that, I kind of know what I want it to look like whenever I start to try to match up with that sketch we built out. And so I can place that in, maybe move it over top of that sketch that we're working around and start kind of pushing on it until I start to see more of the shape that I'm looking for. So with that, I can take maybe one of the side faces, say, extend that out and put it out wherever I need it to go. So I can add in nodes along the way, kind of further adding to that level of control that I have with this freestyle part. It's very easy to add more sections, move certain pieces around, add increases with it. So I can grab certain vertexes, pull them out, push them in, whatever we need to do there. It's really very easy to go through and build that out. And so even with this, if I want to have this mirrored over to the other side, so as I'm making changes here on the left, we can see everything that we do there is going to effectively do the same thing on the right side of this swing arm assembly. So with this, I really only need to work on this half of the design. So the system's going to take that and automatically build out the other half. So round things out, really make it so, okay, I don't want a sharp edge there, whatever I need to do to kind of match up with that sketch that I started from. And so even with that, I can try a lot of things out, see different features, and just as easily go back, edit anything. And so work in this kind of profile view to see exactly how well I'm matching up with that sketch. And that's what we can kind of see here again. It's like starting from that sketch, it's really starting to kind of bridge the gap between I have these ideas out in my notebook and that's all good and dandy, but what is it going to take to actually build out the 3D part right here in Creo? And that's really what we use here with the freestyle tool. Say I know I'm going to have a chain that's going to go around there, maybe add a little bit of clearance, just move everything out a bit, grab certain sections along the side. Maybe you need to go back, redefine this. And that is really one of the biggest things with the freestyle designs. Just very quickly move things around, try things out, and all it takes is just kind of tugging on a vertex, move a face. We don't have to spend a lot of time thinking over every decision we make. If something needs to be thicker, just pick it, make it thicker. And if I see along the way, maybe, okay, I didn't like that decision I made earlier. I didn't intend to have that go like that. Just simply go back, refine it. You can always increase, decrease the number of facets you have in any given area. Really have full control in that regard. So maybe along these sides here, I want to add in a stiffening area, and we can just take that, pull it out along that edge. And same thing as before. I can decide if it's extruding out, if it's going to be maybe say pushed in, hard edges, soft edges. The key around that is that all that geometry that we've been building out here with this part is fully manufacturable. These are all curved continuous surfaces. Like I mentioned earlier, these can all be machined to look exactly the way that I want here. So as I play with that, maybe build it out a little bit, and I'm pretty happy with this. What I can do is actually take now that surface that I've built out in this kind of freestyle feature and click to solidify it. So off of that, it's going to take this and really build out a solid piece. So we have a fully functional freestyle part. And that's something that now I can bring in cuts, use bosses, anything like that, right on top of this freestyle part that I just brought in. And it's what it is. It's all Creo geometry. I want to make changes, add in rounds. We just do that all right within the same system that we're used to working in. That system being Creo. So with that, again, we can see very quickly build that out alongside a lot of this parametric geometry. So it really truly is a very powerful productivity tool and create this type of complex geometry using Freestyle. So obviously with that, a lot of different advantages that gives us for not only working with the CAD tool in the way that we're used to, but also, how we're going to start to build out these designs in a new type of way of thinking on them. And so, if you're going to be working with these types of complex shapes, you're now going to have this direct access to fast freeform modeling through the use of these kind of subdivisional surfacing techniques. And so once you have that, you can very quickly, rapidly start to explore a lot more design ideas, designs. You might just say, start with a sketch and go crazy. Try whatever you want. You can see, what this part looks like, what that part looks like. And it's not, I have to go back and redefine everything. It's simply just exactly what I need to see. And so that's really our overview around the Freestyle tool. And so now what I can do is pass it back over to Hamed or Rebecca, and we can take any questions that you might have or anything that you might want me to elaborate on a little bit more.
Thank you, Paul. We actually have a few questions in the chat box. The first question is, what are the differences between Freestyle and ISDX?
Yes, okay. So if anyone isn't aware of what ISDX is to start with, it's the Interactive Surface Design Extension. And so to take a step back a little bit from that, there's really three main categories of surfacing when Creo parametric. So one is just the standard parametric surfacing, things like boundary blend surfaces, where it's all parametrically controlled by sketches that you make. And the second one is with the Freestyle tool. That's the subdivisional modeling, pull on this, push on that, where nothing's done parametrically, what we call, direct modeling. And then there's into the ISDX tool, or Interactive Surface Design Extension. And so what that is a tool that really falls somewhere in the middle of the other two. It combines a lot of the freeform surfacing techniques that you use in Freestyle, but it adds in more control. So it allows you to look at things like curvature of the surfaces, where you can go in and define a little bit more in detail how exactly those surfaces interact. And again, this is, whereas the parametric and the Freestyle come standard with Creo, that's something that right out of the box you're going to be able to work with and use. The ISDX tool is, again, an extension of those base capabilities. So that's something that you have to take into account there.
All right, thank you for answering that question. The next one we have is, when you create a part using Freestyle, is it completely parametric and modifiable?
That's an interesting one. The answer to that is mostly yes, and maybe a little bit no. So it's no in the sense that you have a Freestyle feature, that's a Freestyle feature. So within that feature, it's going to be all direct modeling, where you're not going to be going through and defining anything parametrically. But once you have that feature and it's created, it is completely modifiable, right? So you can make changes, maybe start off with that Freestyle feature, and off of that, add in whatever you want, rounds, extrudes, or you can work with it in the way that's, right, we saw earlier with that swing arm assembly, where you can have some parametric built out features already in the model, and then you can create the Freestyle feature between those. It kind of comes down really to how you want to build out the model. It's all going to still be a PRT file, but once it's built out, you can really go through, work with it, and modify it however you need to from there.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions, Paul. Looks like there aren't any more questions in our chat box. So with that, I'll leave you guys with a closing note. I highly encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, as we have previous Creo, MathCAD, and Windchill webinars and tutorials. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, as we'll be updated on any upcoming events, webinars, and exclusive deals from PTC. So with that being said, thank you guys for coming, and have a great rest of your day.
And thank you, Rebecca. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.